that is to say International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. We do have our guest who is joining us virtually this morning to have this conversation on war against drug abuse. And he is no other person than a man who has not relented in sharing his experiences throughout to make sure that young people and even old people also are able to learn from how he was able to survive ever since he had a successful recovery process. He has taken upon himself to make sure that he spreads the word, he advocates, he speaks on the issue of drug and substance abuse. We have David FOLARANMI joining us virtually. Good morning, David. How are you doing? Great to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. Let's start with some of the figures that we have. It is said that about 14 million Nigerians are, you know, are having this problem, this drug addiction problem. This is a report by the NDLEA, about 14 million Nigerians. Let us start from there. Do you think that we are winning the war against drug and substance abuse?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure I got the question. I think you were giving me some statistics on drug abuse by the NDLEA,
Yes.
and is that what you said?
Yes, over 14 million Nigerians by the
Oh, yes. Okay,
NDLEA use illegal
that
drugs.
statistics comes from the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime. So that's the overall statutory body that controls drug abuse prevention, treatment, and recovery globally. So in 2018, they did a survey in Nigeria called the Drug Survey, the Nigerian Drug Survey. And that report was very damning. In that report, it was said that at the time, about 14 million Nigerians within the age range of 15 and 60 were abusing substances. And I think that's a very large number. And during the COVID period, it was estimated that that number must have tripled. So we're talking about 42 million Nigerians post-COVID who are known to have used one substance or the other, including hard drugs or pharmaceuticals and other unconventional substances.
All right. Having established that, some of the drugs that are commonly abused and used include cannabis, cocaine, heroin, diazepam, and the likes. Okay. Not to forget the very popular one, codeine. That is the cough syrup, tramadol, and the likes of that. Let's now establish something, Mr. David. What are the things that lead people into drug abuse? It could start from a very as little as one take, and then it escalates. What are the things that lead people to this very terrible situation that we have such an alarming figure right now from Nigeria?
She was asking what could be the reason for the hike, because apparently from your explanation, there's been an increase in the number of people who have used hard substances between 2018 and now. What do you think has informed the spike in the number of these cases?
Thank you. I heard you clearly now. What's the reason for the hike in
Yes,
substance abuse in Nigeria, in our
yes.
community, among the youth? Uh, there's no singular reason for why people use substances, right? But then I'll give you a few that will contribute to the major reasons why there's a hike in substance use among, especially our youth. Number one, the lack of prevention from the family unit. So I always said, and I've always behind can be prevented and starts from the family. So when the parents who are the statutory stakeholders of the family are not performing their drug abuse prevention role, then you might not be a hike. When they don't get relevant knowledge on drug abuse that they can pass on to their children, proper evidence-based preventive measures, then there will be a hike in drug abuse. Number two, at the school level, how much are our educational institutes doing drug abuse? They're not doing very much. That's also that. And then number three, because it's important that we know that a lot of people, Nigeria is a very religious country, so we need to put in the message of drug abuse into our doctrines, into our churches and the mosques and other places of worship. It's very important. And then the media, for instance, our Rapid is doing today, excellent, highly commendable, played a song by David Jones that's speaking up against drug abuse. We still have media stations, media channels that are glorifying drug use. We are posting content that makes it look cool to use drugs. And then when these young people watch these things, it impresses on their minds and they go out to try it. So the media, they a very important. And then finally, I'll stop at the community level. Community level, because it's an all hands on deck approach. At the community level, we need to play our role in stopping the menace of drug abuse. We must do something. When you see black spots, try to talk about it, speak to NDLEA, speak to other relevant agencies. When you notice that drugs are being sold at the street corner, speak up about it. So once this is done, we keep expelling the bad eggs, pushing them outer and outer and farther from our community, thus reducing the prevalence of drug use in our society. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. David. Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Is there any way can you hear me?
Yes, I heard you now.
Okay. So because I wanted to ask something, that's why I want to be sure that you're hearing me. These are wonderful points. You mentioned family, school, religious, the religious sector. You mentioned the media. You mentioned the community, right? So let's now look at those things that really make people go into get to the point of drug addiction. I have, on a personal note now, I have seen people suffer from drug addiction. I have seen people slip into that phase. And sometimes it is a sad thing to behold. And you keep asking yourself, how did it get this bad? What happened? Psychologically, because you are a person who have been chanting the cause of substance abuse, addiction, the awareness and everything. We would just need for you to, tell us what is it a psychological problem? Is it problems from home? Is it peer pressure? What could be the reason that we are having this problem in our society?
Okay, thank you very much. So what we talked about previously, the 5 cardinal points of prevention. Now we want to talk about other reasons why people might venture into substances. So we'll talk about the risk factors or predisposing factors. These factors are outside the control of an individual that makes him or her susceptible to using substances. So I'll mention just a few. Number one will be the environmental factor. Without prejudice to any environment, your studio is in Abuja. I'm very sure that you know that there are certain places in the city of Abuja, in the metropolis, where there's a higher prevalence of drug use. So when a young person is growing up in such an environment, it is easy for him or her, or it makes that person susceptible to wanting to try substances. Number two will be genetics. A lot of people don't know that addiction, which is a mental health disease, a chronic relapsing brain disease, characterized by compulsion to engage in a behavior or consume a substance, irrespective of its harmful consequences, is a disease of the mind. And yes, it can be passed from one generation to another. This does happen. It's a predisposing factor. It makes a person more susceptible to using substances. And then, of course, we have peer pressure, which is born out of, well, giving into peer pressure because of a lack of resilience. So when we have young persons who are not trained to be resilient, it's very easy for them to give into peer pressure. Lack of connection to the school. Lack of connection to the school is also another factor that can lead someone to substance abuse. We also have low self-esteem. Low self-esteem can make a person use substances. We have other mental health issues. So substance abuse and mental health illnesses have a bidirectional relationship, meaning that one can cause the other and vice versa. So when a person is struggling with maybe general anxiety disorder, depression, post-traumatic stress, the person might give in to using substances to sort out the issues with the mental health. I'm not saying that it works, but I'm saying that it's one of the reasons. Then we also have to help with physical pain. So we know some people struggle with pain and they want to take care of that pain and they have to use substances, and eventually they get addicted with very devastating effects. So I think these are some other factors or causes that could lead somebody into addiction. And like you said, once they slip into very slippery slope, once they get into that abyss, it's usually very difficult to come out of it.
So from some of the points that you just highlighted, would you describe drug addiction as a choice or as a disease?
Okay, so let me clear this out to you. Drug addiction is not a choice. Drug addiction is a disease. What is a choice is drug abuse, right? That's the risky behavior. So when you abuse a substance, it leads you to getting addicted to that substance. So it's your choice to abuse that substance. But then when it crosses over from drug abuse to drug addiction, it's now a disease that requires professional help of either a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a cognitive behavioral therapist, and other mental health professionals that will be able to help you at that time. But addiction is not a choice, but a disease.
All right, see that.
All right, so I mean, this is the point where, Mr. David, this conversation will not be complete. Many people were excited when they got to see your picture on the fly. They were like, "Oh, we love to always listen to Mr. David whenever he speaks, because whenever you speak, it is more like it's like you feel the pulse and the pain of people who are you could feel their inner yearnings and you feel their pain, if I can put it that way. What actually led you, because this is not something you just wake up and say, I want to advocate, I want to speak against drug addiction. We would love to, I mean, if you can bless us with that information. What actually led you into this very, very fight against substance abuse and addiction?
Okay, thank you very much, Cynthia. It was for me finding purpose out of pain, finding drawing strength out of my despair. So I struggled with drug addiction, chronic cocaine addiction for 7 years. Right, so having been born into a Christian family with so much investment in my personal and educational life, I eventually gave in to peer pressure and I started using drugs when I was doing my master's in the United Kingdom, in London to be precise. I got back to Nigeria and it just spiraled out of control. I started living in the trap houses. I sold everything that I had. I was in debt in millions of naira. I became what we know as a junkie, so it was terrible, so bad that people couldn't even recognize me anymore. All of the security agencies, especially the police and NDLEA, they knew me to be a notorious drug user. And sometimes when I slept in these trap houses, which were very dirty, filthy, not suitable for any sort of living conditions, I would sometimes cry at night, cry myself to sleep because I knew I shouldn't be there. I was surrounded with so many other youths, young persons who are struggling with addiction, old persons who are struggling with addiction, all of us in that bunk, we call it a bunk, yet we couldn't walk out. There was no gate, there was no padlock, there was no even door, it was just an open space. And I spent the better part of 7 years of my life in that place. I lost 4 of my friends, including somebody else who went to Covenant University with me, and 3 other very close friends, including a young lady who was my very, very, very good bosom friend. She died at the age of 21. So every time while I was there, I would say to myself that if I can indeed come out of this place, I'll be a voice to help people not make the mistakes that I made. It was a terrible period. It's something I wouldn't wish on anybody. It's something that we need to pay more attention to, because it's not just the person who is struggling with addiction that is suffering. The families, I've seen families disintegrate over children who are using substances. I've seen divorces because of children who are using substances. I've seen abject pain and suffering. It's not enjoyment, contrary to what people think, and they just think that this is a useless person that has gone to enjoy himself. Once it crosses over to addiction, you are now dependent on that substance, not to even feel high anymore, just for you to function. So I lived 7 years like this, abject pain and suffering. And so I just said, look, once I'm able to come out of this, I would make sure I dedicate a portion of my life to ensuring people don't make the same mistakes that I made.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us that experience. It is something that somebody's watching right now and getting so inspired. And then the person is wondering, how did Mr. David do this? I want to do it. How were you able to tell yourself, okay, I think it's time for me to get out of this. I want to get out of this. This is not about government dragging you by the.
Did you come to yourself like
How?
the prodigal son? Did somebody help you? How did the journey start?
Okay, so in my case, there were several rock bottoms, because I get this question every time. I don't have the whole time. I just have a short time on this studio session. There were several rock bottoms. There was a time I broke my right leg, my fibula. It was broken. They were going to amputate it. People would have thought, oh, that should have made you stop. But it didn't stop. I still relapsed. There were times I went to rehab. There were times I got arrested. Things were happening. There was the time I lost my closest friend, who was beaten and burnt to death because he went out to steal to be able to get money for drugs. Again, people would have said, so why didn't you stop at that time? So in the 7 years I was doing drugs, I knew I shouldn't be there. So every time I had to try and reassure myself that I was going to come out of this. But in my case, there was a touch of divine intervention, to be very honest, because I did everything I could and tried to make up my mind severally, but every time I just found myself falling back. But when it happened in August of 2017, I did make up my mind again, and I talked to God and I said, God help me. And I just believe that God helped me. But even after that, I checked myself in for therapy again. And for 3 months, I was undergoing proper therapy to make sure that I was well-rooted, standing strong, and able to walk on my feet again. And I want to let people out there know that there's help for whoever is struggling with addiction. Evidence-based treatment methods that actually do work. So I did mine for 3 months, and after that I started going for courses and for seminars to get more knowledge on substance abuse and addiction in general. I started speaking to people about it, and as I spoke to people, I found out that I was building myself more, and it's been a beautiful journey so far.
All right. Let's now take something else. Why we also let you, because I know it's a busy week for you, busy day for you. There was a story some months back that the House of Assembly was about to pass a bill, suggesting death penalty for anyone caught in selling drugs, trafficking drugs, and the likes. Although that particular bill did not, there was no conclusion on that. But the House was divided because some say that death penalty is too much. Don't forget that according to news, it has it that about 3,000 Nigerians are actually on death row for drug trafficking and the likes, which is like a very huge number. So do you think that death penalty is a good suggestion? And also, what can the government do, to curtail this issue of drug addiction, drug abuse, substance abuse in the country?
Okay, so you see, these are policy issues. Now, drug trade is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So when you pluck one out, it just feels like 10 more spring up from somewhere. And trust me, I know this. So when I started, I was all up for the death penalty, death penalty, death penalty. But after a while, I had to sit back and watch. Even in the Middle Eastern part of the world where there's death penalty for drug users, we still have drug traffickers. And that's the truth. So it deters them. Yes, it could deter them, but it also makes certain people bolder. And that's going to even increase the cost of what drugs will cost. So I think, first of all, I want to commend the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency under the leadership of General Buba Marwa, retired, and I think they're doing a very great job in supply reduction, right? So, but Buba Marwa is also making emphasis on prevention, which is why I like the theme of this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. So if we can get prevention on all levels very well done, then you'll see that you'll push out the suppliers. So it's demand and supply. If nobody is demanding for it, then the supply will naturally fade out. But if you decide to still keep fighting the suppliers only, then they're just going to keep springing up, so long as there are people that will buy it. Once there are people that will buy it, you will have suppliers. Even if you give the death penalty, even if you say you're going to take their life and take the lives of their family members, so long as there are people who will buy it, there will still be a supply.
That's
so
the consumers.
Pay more attention to prevention. If nobody is buying it, then there will be nobody selling it.
All right.
In your journey propagating the gospel of freedom from drug addiction, what have you discovered most as you talk to young people? Because I believe they are the ones who are the major target of your work in this whole campaign against drug abuse, drug addiction, and all of that. What have you discovered interacting with young people? What do you think goes on in their minds and in their heads with regards to drug abuse?
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to say that there's been a drastic decrease or a continuous decrease in the age of initiation into drug use. So when we started in 2017, 2018, we had more of senior teenagers, and then it became mid-teenagers, and then preteens. So we now have 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds who are struggling with drug use. I've had 2 deaths by overdose of 13-year-olds that occurred, and then one of a 16-year-old recently. So the younger people are now actively getting involved with substance use, and this is because, once again, they do not understand the risks associated with substance use. So 1, they think it's cool. 2, there are a lot of myths that they have come to believe that are true about substance use. So we need to debunk some of these myths. Some of them think that when they use substances, it makes them cognitively sharper. It makes them to assimilate what they are being taught. Of course, we know these are all lies. And unfortunately, some of these half-truths, or lies as they were, have been propagated by the media. Either social media or mainstream media. These young people who have access to them, and they see or they hear some of these things, they see some of their faves smoking a joint on TV, or drinking alcohol, and alcohol adverts to make alcohol look cool. And I try to explain to some of these young persons that it's not the alcohol that they are drinking that makes them look like that in the adverts. Some of these things are paid for. They are just props for the adverts. But we keep feeding their minds with these things, and they think that it is okay for them to do it. So I went to a school in Lagos very quickly. That was last year in June. And then after I finished speaking, a popular musician, his son came up to me and had an argument with me in front of the entire school. He said, "Sir, what you're saying about marijuana is wrong." I mean, his father is an A-list musician. I just don't want to name names. He came out and this guy I'm talking about is less than 10. He said, "Sir, what you're saying is wrong." He kept on arguing with me. So that's what he has been fed with. That is what he's feeding other persons in the school. And you know what? When I was done that day, a 13-year-old girl in that school came up to me and said, "Sir, I'd like to talk to you." What started drinking 2 years ago. That's when she was 11. Now she's using marijuana and cocaine, and she can't assimilate what's going on in school anymore.
As
She
a
started
13-year-old.
self-harming, cutting herself. Yeah, cutting herself on her thighs. So all her thighs were filled with bruises. By the time we set up an intervention, we found out that her liver was going bad. One of her kidneys was bad already, and she had to be put on dialysis at the age of 13. So most of these young people have been fed with false information about drug use, and it's our duty to send out the truth about drugs and correct these false narratives.
Now, for the mainstream media, there is some sort of regulation. We have the NBC, who controls most of what goes out there. But then again, for social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, you literally can find a smartphone in the hand of, like you referenced, a 13-year-old and 11-year-old. And there's not a lot of control as to what is put out there. So in terms of trying to change the narrative and push out the right message, how can we be able to achieve that, since you cannot control the pages that they follow, the people that they follow, and the kind of contents that they're exposed to?
It's fire for fire. So when those pages are telling them what they shouldn't hear, we also have our own pages telling them what the truth is. So we need more. Yesterday, I made an announcement. I said, look, we don't have enough drug abuse prevention practitioners in the industry. I offered to give free consultation to 10 organizations that want to come into the industry, because we need more people telling the truth about drugs. It's not as difficult as people think. Yes, you need some level of training, you need some level of knowledge to be able to pass across evidence-based preventive techniques. But we need more people. We need more people on social media dedicating their spaces to talk about drugs. For instance, this week is the commemoration of the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. And I've been telling people on my platform, please use your spaces to say the truth about drugs. Tell young people that these things are bad. Tell young people that these things are detrimental to their future. Nobody wants to talk about it. So the more we have the right information out there, countering is light over darkness. That's what it is. It's light over darkness. So the darkness is spreading false information on drugs. We need more light to expel that darkness by putting out there the truth about drugs.
All right. I think that let's have your final words as we wrap up the conversation this morning, so that you could get to other things. Let's have your final words regarding this drug, substance abuse, drug addiction, and the likes. Let's have your final words, Mr. David.
Like I always like to say, drug abuse is preventable. It starts in the home. If we have parents listening to us here, please do your due diligence, get the right knowledge and information about drugs, and pass this across to your children, creating them a resilience to be able to say no when they are offered outside. Instill in them appropriate life skills, problem-solving skills, communication skills, assertiveness, self-awareness, all of these things. It creates a total package of a young person who is able to say no when he or she goes out there. And then for anybody who is struggling with substance use or addiction, please, I want you to know it's not a death sentence. Don't hate yourself, don't kill yourself, don't give up on yourself. Just seek help. Seek professional help. I'm sure if you go through Rapid TV, you can get my contact or the contact of any other professional in the mental health field that will be able to help you. But it's not a death sentence. You can come out of it just like I came out of it, and many other people are coming out of it. Thank you all very much. And it's the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking this week. Please speak up against drug abuse. Put it on your status. It will not. I know your status is so precious to you, but do something, because evil persists where good men say nothing. So speak out against drug abuse. Just and then we much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. David FOLARANMI, for having this conversation with us. Really insightful, interesting, and of course, I'm sure that for you watching out there, you've been able to get a thing or two regarding that. We'll go on a very short break. This is our last song from David Jones this morning. We'll be right back.
Rise and shine with Rapid Dawn, your essential morning companion only on Rapid TV.
Start your day with us. We bring you the latest news, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on issues that matter.
From weather updates to our wellness tip, interesting recipes, and our trendy conversations every Tuesday to the weirdest of talks on Wednesday, Rapid Dawn has got you covered. So grab a coffee and join us every weekday morning on Rapid Dawn. Let's greet the day together.
Rapid Dawn, weekday mornings at 7 a.m. only on Rapid TV. Join us and wake to the dawn of a new day. See you in the morning.
My name is
Ima Ehumadu, aka La Vista.
My name is DK, aka Mama Chinedu.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
You are watching Rapid TV.
Shout out to Rapid TV.
Hey, Rapid TV, Carigo.
The biggest, the finest, the only Rapid TV.
Rapid TV.
Yes, keep watching.
Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV.